Everyone loves to talk about the BILT card. People love to earn their points on rent, but BILT's going to be changing a bit, and BILT's going to be implementing and introducing some new cards. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin on the Credit Card BS podcast. Today we have some updates about what may be called a BILT 2.0 card. So BILT has recently sent out a survey to its customers, and it looks like, they have a no annual fee version proposal of this card, which is what they currently have, no annual fee, but the perks are different. And they're also surveying some possible options for a $95 annual fee card and a $550 annual fee card. So it looks like they're kind of taking some sort of trifecta approach, similar to how Chase has a Sapphire Preferred at a $95 price point and a Sapphire Reserve at a $550 price point. Sean, what does this look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying, they're not, I would imagine they're not making that much money off of their no annual fee card, and they're just looking for options to be able to, run this program more sustainably, at better margins. And, these type of card price points we've seen be very profitable for a lot of banks historically. And so it makes sense that they're trying to get into this area. And this is, especially because this gives them more money to play with, because offering benefits on a no annual fee card is very expensive, right? Because anything additional you add, essentially you're just paying for it, right? But when you have an annual fee card, you have like a bank of money to play with, essentially, right? When someone gives you $550 for a card, you now have $550 essentially for that customer to play with the benefits, right? So I think they're essentially trying to become more competitive at the premium tier of the market, and they're also trying to run their program more sustainably.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've never been that bothered with annual fees as long as they come with good benefits. I know a lot of people, this annual fee might scare them off, but I would argue, if by charging a $95 or $550 annual fee allows them to actually have the card come with a substantial sign up bonus, I would be, totally in favor. One of my biggest frustrations with the existing no annual fee BILT card is that there is no sign up bonus, basically, at least no public one. And that has always deterred me from getting the card because, the amount I would have to spend on the BILT card to get the equivalent number of points as another card that even if it doesn't have as good multipliers, has a huge bonus up front, that amount would be very large. So that's why I've never been that interested in current build cards. So I'm very interested to see if it will come with a substantial sign up bonus once these new cards are released. Now, before we jump into all the details, I want to read a very interesting quotation from BILT, their messaging. They said, another thing they're looking at is, quote, waiving the standard 3% card fee on rent payments represents a significant cost to the program and unique value that we provide to BILT cardholders. Ensuring this benefit goes to members who genuinely engage with our broader program rather than those taking advantage of loopholes will allow us to continue delivering long-term value for our entire cardholder community, unquote. So corp speak aside, Sean, what do you think this actually means? What do they mean by members who genuinely engage with our broader program, as opposed to those taking advantage of loophole?
Yeah, it means we got a lot of churners and it's costing us a lot of money. We're gonna have to fix that. Essentially, right? That's why BILT has the 5 transaction minimum per month to earn any points. So, like, even if you pay your rent, but if you don't have those transactions, right, you may not earn the points. And they've kind of, they've done this so there's some kind of minimum engagement required, and they want people, because in theory, if people are already making 5 transactions, they might just go, oh, you know what, I'll just use this card day to day. And essentially, that's what they want people to do, right? They want people to use this card day to day. But the problem, of course, for us is, like, if the card isn't the most competitive to use day to day, we don't want to use it day to day. But so the incentives here are not exactly aligned.
I think the loopholes you're alluding to might also refer to people using the fee-free rent payments for stuff that isn't actually rent. There might be some loopholes. But anyway, let's move on to, the survey they sent out. I kind of walk through each of the different options and give our thoughts on it. So starting with the first one, so they released two no annual fee card concepts. Both of them earned 1x points on rent and mortgage. So rent, just like now, but they're adding mortgage, which is very interesting. So option A is that they'll give 1.5x points on all spend. Option B just has the 1x points on all other spend. But option A has 4x points on BILT, neighborhood dining, Walgreens, and Lyft. Option B, however, has 3x points on BILT, neighborhood dining, Walgreens, and Lyft, and 2x points on gas, grocery, and dining. Sean, thoughts on these options? Is there one that stands out more to me? The 1.5x points on option A sort of shows that trying to take a Chase Freedom Unlimited approach. And it's actually quite interesting because I generally won't spend on any card that only offers 1x points. I'm looking for at least 1.5x, if not 2x. So this might be a greater reason for me to actually use their card on a daily if they go with that option. And personally, that the 2x points, gas, grocery, dining on the other card, isn't that interesting to me. I personally think you need X on a category for it to be meaningful, given the number of 2x every cards out there. Sean?
Yeah, I would agree, and I think it makes it more interesting the fact that BILT has these very interesting transfer bonuses, right? Where essentially you can almost double the value of your points. And so if you're doing like 1.5x on everything, if you have like BILT status or if you time it right, you could essentially have been earning X on general spending, right? In terms of after you factor in the transfer bonus. So I found that really interesting. I think that I agree with you that the X and the 4x like option A combo is more interesting. Yeah, I don't find like X on gas, groceries, and dining that interesting just because I have cards that can do, better in those categories. Now I'm sure if you're like a one card setup, then it might be a bit of a different situation. But yeah, I personally find option A 1.5x on everything a lot more interesting.
I mean, even the Freedom Unlimited from Chase, which has 1x points on all other spend, has 3x points on dining. So I think this is a tier below that, and I think they could do better. Now, the other interesting thing is, again, they're giving 1x points on mortgage. It looks like they're expanding their card to mortgage products. I wonder, however, if this will come with some sort of cap, because as you know, mortgage payments could be much higher than rent and thus cost BILT much more money. And if we've seen any trend with BILT is that they've started instituting caps on, for example, number of points you can earn on rent day and other promotions stuff. So I'm wondering if, for them to avoid losing that much money on mortgage, it can be much more expensive. If you think that'll come with some sort of catch, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen on rent. I think their cap is like $50,000 a year on rent.
Mm-hmm.
Which may sound like a lot, but if you're in one of the more expensive areas of the United States, especially if you have like roommates or something, you'll hit that cap very, very quickly. Depending on the specific area, of course, but in the major metropolitan cities, right? So the same thing, I think mortgage, they'll probably put a cap on it, something like 50K, maybe a little higher because mortgage, right? Like maybe they'll go like 75K. But it's definitely not going to be something where there's no cap, or I don't think it's going to be that generous of a cap. Just given kind of what we've seen from BILT is, I feel like their whole MO is like, we make really generous benefits and really cool perks, but it's really like you can't use them that much, right? That's the reason that this program's been kind of not the most appealing to me, is because they've given me like a toy limit on my card, like $2,000 limit. I tried to raise it before, literally only went to 2,500. So I can't even do that much spending on the card. And even though they have these really generous transfer bonuses, it's hard to earn that many points in the first place to transfer to get the points to transfer out. So I feel like that's kind of their trend. So I feel like, yeah, it's gonna be a low cap for sure.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to the $95 annual fee card concept. So sounds like to me they're trying to mimic the Chase Sapphire Preferred in some way, some variation. So both options A and B here have 1x points on rent and mortgage, just like their no annual fee option. They both earn 1x points on all the other spend. Option A has 2x points on dining, grocery, gas, and 5x points on BILT neighborhood dining, hotels booked through BILT, Lyft, Walgreens. Option B, on the other hand, has 2x points on travel, much like their current no annual fee card, and 3x points on dining, much like their current no annual fee card. 3x points on Walgreens, 5x points on BILT neighborhood dining and Lyft. Okay, so my first reaction is that these 5x points categories look really generous, but in reality, you're not going to be spending that much money on Lyft. Walgreens, maybe if you have like a lot of prescriptions, medications, or something, but otherwise, not most useful to most people. And like BILT neighborhood dining, again, 5x points sounds great, but realistically, it's not going to be that frequent of an expense for most people. That's option A's 2x points for the same reasons we talked about don't really appeal to me. So I'm more interested in option B, providing 3x on dining. Sean, any thoughts about these multipliers?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the 3x on dining is interesting just because that is pretty competitive with some of the other major cards, like the City Preferred or City Strata, whatever.
Premiere,
You know,
yes.
so yes, the names are getting more complicated now. Yeah, I think that's more interesting, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I don't think any of these multipliers are like mind blowing in any sense, right? Like even the 5x categories aren't anything to write home about. Option A, the 5x on BILT, on hotels booked through BILT is interesting. But again, I think the thing is like that's pretty similar to like what every other major bank is doing. And the problem with this whole like, oh,
Yeah,
you get 5x on hotels booked through us is when you book through them, you don't get any perks, right? Because it's counted as a third party
right.
booking.
I
What's
will
interesting
say
is, yeah.
the
Oh,
Wells
sorry, you go ahead.
Fargo Autograph Journey card gives 5x points on hotel bookings, and you don't have to book with Wells Fargo. You can book with anything. This to me is pales in comparison to that. But Sean, go ahead.
That is really interesting, and I think, but essentially what I was gonna say is it's interesting that none of the banks have ever implemented a travel portal that allows you to continually earn benefits while booking, because that is in theory possible, right? If you book through a standard travel agent, like one that's not booking like bottom barrel rates, they can still earn a commission on your booking, and you can still receive full elite perks, right? Like even if it's just a standard booking. So it is possible for them to do this, just none of the banks will want to because it's like, more expensive.
That's fair. That's fair. So this card also comes with what they market as $170 in annual partner credits, including $60 in BILT fitness credits, $60 in Walgreens credits, and $50 in BILT hotel credits. Now, they don't really specify if these will be doled out monthly or quarterly or on some other interval. I hope not, but just based on these, Sean, any of them appeal to you in particular?
I mean, okay, let's be very generous to build here. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that these are all annual credits, just for a second. I don't think they will be, but let's just say for a second they are. Built hotel credit, it's the same thing as the Sapphire preferred credit, right? The Sapphire hotel credit, $50. Maybe in a pinch, maybe, probably not, probably will not use it. The Walgreens credit, that one could be interesting just because it's like, Walgreens is kind of like a very expensive, very small grocery store to some degree. So you can get some actually like practical items at Walgreens. So okay, that one's kind of decent. The Built Fitness credit. What the hell even is Built Fitness? Is that like their like
You
is
know,
that
I
just going
have
to be like
friends
their
who
gym
swear by the
alliance?
built fitness classes, like the fitness classes that you can redeem using built points. I've never done one of those. I don't know if it represents good value. I know people are swayed by this marketing, though. Like, it's been a compelling thing amongst the younger crowd, so much so that I think they started capping the number of redemptions you could do on it. So
Wow. Okay.
I will put it that way.
Interesting. I think overall the okay, now the problem with me saying this, like realistically, these are not going to be totally annual credits. Maybe the hotel credit will be, maybe the fitness credit will be. I would be very surprised if the Walgreens credit was annual, just because that one's like seems pretty easy to use. But I do think if they make it not too broken up, right? If it's not like $5 at Walgreens a month or something, like that's ridiculous. But let's say it's like quarterly, okay, maybe or a semi-annual. But if there's a decent enough sign-up bonus on this card, it could offset the poor credits pretty well, I
Yeah.
think.
Honestly, when I get a $95 card, I'm not expecting any credits. Like, I'm just expecting the ability to, like, for transfer partners. That's at least that's how I think about why I have like Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Ink Preferred, or a City Strata Premier. So for me, the credits are not that great, but I didn't expect them to be great anyway. So I'm not too mad about it, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's move on to the $550 annual fee card concept. So, much chunkier annual fee like the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And let's see if the benefits measure up. So, option A has 1x points on rent and mortgage, like before, but interestingly, option B has 1.25x points on rent and mortgage. So, that's 25% bonus compared to other built cards. So, let's pause here, Sean. What do we think about this higher multiplier for rent and mortgage? I think it's cool, but is it going to come with a lower cap or something?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting because that could be nice. What I think would be really interesting is if they like added a higher cap or something on that card, right? If you're paying 550, it
Yes.
comes with a higher cap. Then it would be very appealing. I don't imagine they would necessarily directly do that because then it just becomes like unless people just kind of emotionally go, oh, 25% more points and just do it, right? It kind of becomes a very simple math equation of like, okay, what do I spend on rent or mortgage, right? How many more points did
Yes.
I earn? What is the value of those points? It's a very simple equation. I think it's interesting because, that obviously is like kind of the core tenet of the program, right? Is to earn points on rent slash mortgage. And so any kind of increase to that is really interesting, especially if the cap is higher, or if the cap's unaffected. Like, let's say it's $50,000 a year, right? Okay, I earned 25% more points on this. There's something, right? It's a decent amount of more points. That's like, $150 or something, $200 worth of points, depending on how I value them. So that is interesting, right? If you're already paying that anyways, it could help directly offset the annual fee.
Yep. And then I won't walk through every single multiplier again here because, to us, it's not that big of a deal. But interestingly, option A has 4x points on direct flight bookings. Option B has 3x points on direct flight bookings. Again, it's nice that they're offering elevated points for flight bookings that don't necessarily have to be through the portal. That's, to me, is more interesting than like a higher multiplier where you have to book through the portal. But disappointingly, no 3x on dining on either of these options. So I probably wouldn't be using it for that. Now let's talk about their annual partner credits, which they market as a $380 value. So we see both options: $200 BILT travel hotel credit, okay, $120 in BILT fitness credit, $60 at Walgreens credit, and then priority pass. Okay, let's start with the priority pass. I think I would only care about this if A, they have priority pass restaurants, which, to be
Yes,
honest, I feel like it's
I don't think they will.
unlikely, but if they have it, it'll actually be a reason to get this party pass over other party passes, which we have a ton of from all these different cars. Doesn't represent more value. And slash, or if they give party pass to authorized users and they're free to have them. And that's
Well,
what
that would be interesting.
Venture
Yeah.
X has been doing. Yeah, that's what Venture X has been having, the Ritz Carlton card. That's why people get those cards. I think if they really want to compete, they need to have that. Sean, any other thoughts on the party pass or the credits?
Yes. So, okay, I was looking at this survey thing. I don't know if this is a typo or not, but if you look at the high annual fee card, right, it says that the credits are like a $200 BILT hotel credit, singular, and a $60 Walgreens credit, again, singular. But if you look at the $95 annual fee card, it says
Mm.
credits as in plural. So maybe that's a typo, but to me that almost implies that the lower annual fee card is going to have the credits broken up, whereas the higher fee card may have it usable at one time.
Ooh.
That's speculation on my part, but just given that, I mean, that to me, that kind of like, I don't, unless someone had a typo, that's the only reason to have that, differentiated there. So I think in terms of the credits, okay, the $200 BILT hotel credit, unless they have something like FHR or something that allows me to earn elite perks, it's like I'm gonna use it because it's 200. Like, really, you can't make it.
I mean, it's
It's
kind
gonna
of
be
like the
kind of
Venture X credit, right? The Venture X $300 travel credit where you have to book through the portal.
But at least the Venture X one, right? You have flights as an option, and you also have their Premier collection as an option. So you have like two
Mm-hmm.
kind of good options where you're not losing any perks.
Yeah,
Whereas if you use the built one, right? If I'm assuming you're not going to be getting any perks.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if BILT eventually expands to like an FHR Premier Collection like offering, and I hope they do. I think it would be really good for them to do it.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And these credits they add up, and they still don't add up to the annual fee, unlike the Amex Platinum though. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes, like for example, the Amex Platinum is a much higher annual fee, but when you add up all the credits, it far exceeds it. Whereas this is a lower annual fee, but it may not be as worth it despite the lower annual fee because the credits don't exceed that. Another thing I'm wondering is if the $550 card will give 50% more value when you redeem points in your portal. I think currently they let you redeem BILT points at 1.25 cents per point in your travel portal. So not transferring to partners, but using points for travel in the portal, which we typically don't do, but it's an option. So, Sean, do you think they would up it to 1.5 for the 550 card like the Sapphire Reserve? I feel like they kind of
Yeah,
have to.
I could easily see them doing that. I don't think, yeah, like to you and me, that wouldn't really be that appealing, but I could see that being a definitely a thing they do. I could also see the high tier cards coming with some sort of built status. That I
Mm,
would not be surprised with either. Maybe like the low tier card gets you built silver and the high tier gets you gold or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that
I
would
think
be
that'd be good.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be really
because the
interesting
bill
just because of the
bill
transfer
status
bonus.
doesn't really cost them that much. I mean, okay, it does cost them when you use the transfer bonuses, which is why they're interesting. But in general, there's not really any meaningful perks that come with it.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. Let's wrap up here. What do you think of the BILT 2.0 card? If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you found it interesting or useful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. It greatly helps us out. If you're interested in signing up for any credit card, please consider using one of the links down in the description below. It greatly helps support the channel as well. And Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
Yes, if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts, check out the Travel Lane Discord at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.